What is your go-to joke when somebody asks you to tell one? A pub somewhere in Ireland. Seamus the bartender talks with a patron. Seamus: do you know who built that bridge out there? Patron: well, you did, Seamus. Seamus: do they call me Seamus the bridge builder? Patron: well, no they don't. Seamus: what about the stools you're sitting on? Who built those? Patron: well, you did, Seamus. Seamus: do they call me Seamus the steelmaker? Patron: well, no. Seamus: and what about the roof on this pub? Patron: you built that as well. Seamus: and they don't call me Seamus the roof builder. Seamus: but I fucked one goat. A duck walks into a bar and says, do you have duck food here? The bartender says, no, and the duck leaves. The duck comes back the next day and says, do you have duck food? The bartender says, no. The duck comes back the next day and says, do you have any duck food? The bartender says, I already told you no twice. If you come back and ask me again, I'm going to nail your feet to the floor. The duck comes back the next day and says, do you have any nails? The bartender says, no. Do you have any duck food? 3 nuns go to heaven. First nun comes to Petrus. Petrus asks the first nun, who was the first woman on earth? Nun: ah, that's an easy one, Eve. Music plays, the door opens, the nun enters paradise. Petrus asks the second nun, who was the first man on earth? Nun: ah, that's an easy one, Adam. Music plays, the door opens, the nun enters paradise. Petrus asks the third nun, what were the first words Eve said to Adam? Nun: oh poo. That's a hard one. Music plays, the door opens, the nun enters paradise. A guy finds a magic lamp. He rubs it and out pops a genie. You have found my lamp, says the genie, and in return I will grant you 2 wishes. Isn't it supposed to be 3 wishes? Says the guy. Look in your pants, the genie replies. The guy looks in his pants. Holy shit, he exclaims. My dick is huge. Yeah, says the genie. I've been in this business for a while. Okay, so there's this doctor and this woman who is giving birth. After a hard labor and lots of suffering, the baby finally comes out. The doctor take it in its hands, and smash it against the table, and the wall, and the floor. Bam bam bam! The woman is horrified and asks the doctor what is he doing. The doctor then smiles and says, just kidding, it was already dead. But he asked me in class to tell him a joke. This was the only one that came to mind. Do you know the difference between the shower curtain and toilet paper? No? Narrows eyelids, so it was you. My mother used to tell me this one. What's the difference between a bike? What? The same distance between the steering wheel. Stupid funny. A man is walking through the woods when he finds a suitcase. Curled up under the suitcase are a fox and 4 cubs. He immediately calls animal control to report what he found. Oh no, that's terrible, says the animal control worker. Are they moving? I don't know, says the man, but I guess that would explain the suitcase. A man on a long business trip goes into a brothel and hands the madam $200. He says, I want a fat, ugly woman who will talk mean to me and refuse to have sex with me. The madam says, sir, for this amount you can have an hour with the best girl in the house. He says, lady, I'm not horny, I'm homesick. A pirate walks into a bar with a steering wheel in his pants. The bartender said to him, hey, you know you have a steering wheel in your pants? The pirate replied, it's driving me nuts. 2 fish were in a tank. One fish looks at the other one and asks, any idea how to drive this thing? 2 whales walk into a bar. The first whale walks up to the bartender and says, continue making whale noises for as long as you like, ideally 5 minutes. The second whale looks at the first and says, God damn it, Steve, you're so annoying when you're drunk. A bear and a rabbit are taking a shit in the woods. The bear says to the rabbit, do you have problems with shit sticking to your fur? The rabbit says no. So the bear wipes his ass with the rabbit. Totally stolen from Eddie Murphy. PG rated. Why do divers fall backwards off a boat into the water? Because if they fell forwards they'd still be in the boat. R rated. What's the difference between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean? I've never paid $200 to have a garbanzo bean in my mouth. A sheep farmer has a talking dog. One day he asks it to get all his sheep into the pen. A little while later the dog says, job's done, all 40 sheep accounted for. 40? I have 36 sheep, not 40, the farmer says. The dog replied, I know, I rounded them up. My wife is a baker, and she always bakes cookies with Heath bars in them. I told her she should keep track of them and keep a Heath ledger. She didn't think that was funny, but I kept making jokes about it like some kind of Heath Ledger joker. My joke For context, us Germans have rivalries between our favorite beers, so one can input every beer. What is the difference between a clitoris and a insert beer name? The clitoris only tastes like piss for the first few seconds. Yay, just a disclaimer though. My grandpa died at Hot Switches, so I don't like World War II jokes. They usually say also sorry was he a Jew? Which the punchline comes. Thanks, no poor bastard broke his neck when he fell from the guard tower. My wife always says to me you're so sarcastic all the time. Being sarcastic never got anyone anywhere. So I told her well, it got me to the World Sarcasm Championships in Santiago, Chile in 1998. She said really? I said no. What's the difference between a rectal thermometer and an oral thermometer? X200B. The taste? X200B. Doctor goes to write a note, and pulls a thermometer from his pocket. He says great, some asshole has my pen. Another small one I really like. At a nice, calm evening at bar, a man with a gun storms in and screams, "Who of you dipshits slept with my wife?" A man in the back stands up and says, "You don't have enough bullets." A priest and a rabbi are walking down the sidewalk together and see an 11-year-old boy across the street walking the other way. The priest says to the rabbi, "Hey, let's fuck him." The rabbi replies, "Out of what?" A woman walks into a hardware store to buy a hinge. The salesman asks, "Do you want a screw for the hinge?" Woman says, "No, but I'll blow you for the toaster." Heard in a stand-up routine about 40 years ago. There was one I heard relatively recently involving a question and answer setup. Guy 1: know any good dad jokes? Guy 2: well, I used to know some pretty good dad jokes, but like my own father, they've left me. How many Westboro Baptists, a hate group with the God hates fags signs, does it take to change a light bulb? 20. 1 to change the light bulb, and 19 to protest it for being brighter than they are. Blind man walks into a store with his seeing eye dog. Picks the dog up by the tail and starts twirling him over his head. Manager comes up, asks if he can help. Blind man says nah. Just looking around. Two chemists walk into a bar. The first one says, "I'll have a H2O please." The second one says, "I'll have a water too, please." The first chemist sighs as his assassination attempt has failed. A Roman centurion walks into a bar and says, "I'll have a Martinez, please." The bartender scratches his head. "Do you mean a martini? Look, if I wanted a double I'd fucking ask for one. I'm more of a Riddler." What is the difference between a drunk cowboy and a constipated owl? One shoots and can't hit. The other hoots and can't sh. Technically that's a spoonerism. A nun is in a bath and there's a knock at the door. Who is it? I'm in the bath. It's the blind man. "Okay, you can come in." "Ooh, nice boobs. Now where do you want these blinds?" "I woke up laughing this morning. I must have slept funny." Or, "I saw a poor old lady collapse at the bus stop earlier. Well, I assume she was poor, she only had 3 pounds in her purse." Titanium asks uranium, "Uranium, where do you work at?" Uranium answers, "You know, I am radioactive, it is a bad joke, and I created it myself. I am not sorry for it." Two sausages are sitting in a pan. One looks to the other and says, "Gosh, it's hot in here." The other looks and screams, "Goodness gracious, a talking sausage." Why couldn't Sally play on the swings? She had no arms. What did Sally get for Christmas? We don't know, she couldn't open it. Knock knock. Who's there? Not Sally. Q. What's a pirate's favorite letter? The answer R. You answer in pirate accent. You'd think so, but me first love always be the sea. The accent is necessary. Man come home with a duck under his arm. He says, "This is a pig I've been fucking." Wife says, "That's not a pig, it's a duck." Man says, "I was talking to the duck." Two muffins are sitting in an oven. One muffin says to the other, "It's getting hot in here." The other muffin looks over and says, "Holy cow, a talking muffin." Do you know who've been through a lot of shit but are still together? My butt cheeks. Friend told me that one as I was going through a bad breakup. Lol. Tell them that there is someone passed by an owl in the until they say who bursts out and to see yourself out afterwards. What's the difference between people from Dubai and people from Abu Dhabi? People from Dubai don't like the Flintstones. People from Abu Dhabi do. A dog with a bandage on his foot walks into a bar. The bartender asks him what he wants and the dog says, "I'm looking for the man who shot my paw." A chicken spots a duck about to cross the road. He runs over to the duck, grabs his wing and says, "Don't do it, mate. You'll never hear the end of it." What's red and covers all 4 corners of a room? A baby that turned on the chainsaw. After that, people usually stop ask me to tell them jokes. What's the difference between a pizza and a baby? The pizza don't scream when I put it in the oven. I know it's dark, but some will like it. I once had someone tell me that only women can be lesbians. I thought it was incredibly small-minded. Gender doesn't matter. Anyone can act. I saw this Mexican magician that said that he would disappear on the count of 3. Uno. Dos. Suddenly he was gone without a trace. A man is washing his car in the driveway with his son. After a few hours the boy asks his father if next time he will just use a sponge. What's the difference between a nun at confessions and a nun in the bath? One has a soul full of hope and the other a hole full of soap. A man walks into his son's room. He says, "Son, if you keep masturbating you're going to go blind." The son goes, "I'm over here, Dad." What's the difference between an owl, a piano and a fish? You can tune a piano, but you can't tune a fish. What about the owl? Fred stays home alone and has to mark the eggs, on which day they were laid. The parents return and every egg is marked with today. What is the difference between a chickpea and a garbanzo bean? I can't pay $25 an hour to have a garbanzo bean on my face. Well, I don't know any jokes, but I can do a great impersonation of a hipster. I'd show it to you but you probably wouldn't get it. Have you ever heard of the camel whose foreskin pulled back every time it blinked? He wanked himself to death in a sandstorm. Why did the bike fall over? It was too tired. Repeat this several times at completely random intervals to annoy my friends. I heard one that cracked me up but I was drunk at the time. Ask me if I'm a dinosaur. Are you a dinosaur? No,